Okay, this is our third episode on the issue of the authenticity of the book of Revelation and its dating. And the actual title of this episode is Robert Young of Young's Literal Bible, exposed in 1885, the reason for originally translators misreading Irenaeus to erroneously conclude from that statement that Revelation was written in the 80s or 90s. Young's exposure has been forgotten or ignored, not by everyone, but most of them. And I'll have another episode that explains why they don't want to see it. They have theological reasons why they don't want to see these facts. And who's Young's? Well, I've told you he was the author of Young's Literal Bible, very good translation. But he also did a great concordance. It's still available for usage. He wrote it in 1879, but in 1885 he revised it, and in there he had dug in to find out what is the dating of the Book of Revelation for his purposes. So I just want to read you how, if you went to a Catholic authority and wanted to read what it says, it's going to say this. And I'm just going to read you Irenaeus versus Orosius 5:30 and 3. Book 5, chapter 30, paragraph 3. So let me read this in full. Here's the quote from Adversus Orosius by Irenaeus regarding the date of the book of Revelation in the context of Apostle John's life. Quote, "We will not, however, incur the risk of pronouncing positively as to the name of Antichrist, for if it were necessary that his name should be distinctly revealed in this present time, it would have been announced by him who beheld the apocalyptic vision," meaning the apocalypse of John. "For it was seen not very long time since, but almost in our day, towards the end of Domitian's reign," meaning it, the work of the apocalyptic vision, meaning the book of Revelation, was towards the end of Domitian's reign. So the key is, what is the actual word in Latin there as Domitian? And this is hard for us to understand because we don't know that Domitian doesn't necessarily mean an emperor named Domitian. So I'm going to go back and show you what was the mistake that people made. So I'm just going to show you right here. They stupidly mistook Domitianou for Domitianikos. That's important. That means that one name means Domitian Nero, and the other means Domitian that we know of as Domitian. Okay, so I'll just read it now more slowly for you. Robert Young, Young's Analytical Concordance, 1885, concerning the date of Revelation. It was written in Patmos about AD 68. We know that from the interior of it. The temple is still standing, so 70 AD is when the temple is sieged and taken down. So that tells you right there it could not have been in the 90s. Whither John had been banished by Domitius Nero, as stated in the title of the Syriac version of the book, and I'll go into that later. And with this concurs the express statement of Irenaeus in AD 175, who says it happened in the reign of Domitianou. Now, this is what's so amazing. Nobody caught this except Robert Young. Domitius Nero. That's how you would say Domitius Nero. So this idea of Domitius had to be Domitian, of somebody who lives in the 90s, mistook and mistaked, not counting in this word new, which is a way of truncating Nero's name in Greek. Sulpicius, Orosius, etc., stupidly mistaking. These are ancient fathers reading this and saying, "Oh, it's Domitian," and they're not using their brains of knowledge of language. Stupidly mistaking Domitianou for Domitianikos, supposed Irenaeus to refer to Domitian, AD 95, and most succeeding writers have fallen to the same blunder. The internal testimony is wholly in favor of the early date. This was quoted in Foy E. Wallace, The Book of Revelation, Fort Smith, Wallace Jr. Publications, at page 2324. All right, so I just want to show you, this is picked up on by Kurt Simmons, dating the Book of Revelation. I'll give a link to this article. And he points this all out, the same quote. And then he says, there is such a divergence of scholarly opinion regarding the credibility of Irenaeus' quotation as to render it almost worthless as external evidence of the later date. Thus, the whole of the evidence favoring the date of 96 AD comes down to something little more than nothing. There is no, it's a nothing burger. Domitianou meant Domitius Nero, not Domitian of the 90s. Moreover, there is no internal evidence of the book itself upon which to corroborate this date, meaning the book of Revelation, but much against it. Therefore, let us proceed to examine the evidence of an earlier dating. and I'm going to just read the one about the Syriac issue. Remember, that's what Robert Young mentioned. The Syriac, it says John had been banished to Domitius Nero, as stated in the title of the Syriac version of the book. So the Book of Revelation's title inside of the Syriac version tells you it was. You'll see it was written on the island of Patmos, where Nero had sent or banished John. So let's read that. The Syriac is among the earliest and most important versions. The oldest of these is dated to within about 100 years of the pens. Now, I don't know if he means oldest means earliest, because he's using earliest and oldest. It could potentially contrasting. So anyway, it's old. There are several versions of the Syriac in our possession, including the Peshito, meaning the simple, the Curetonian, the Philoxenian, and the Heraclean. The oldest of these lacks the books of 2 Peter, 2nd and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation, where these books are present. So the Syriac has multiple editions: Peshito, Curonian, Philoxenian, and Heraclean. One of them, the oldest, is that the earliest or the oldest, meaning the oldest among these four. So it's a little ambiguity in his writing. I'm going to presume he meant earliest. So the earliest didn't have these books. Where these books are present, obviously, the other books that we can trace that are subsequent. Revelation is captioned and entitled thus. So in 3 of the 4, it's captioned the same way. The revelation which was made by God to John the Evangelist in the island of Patmos, into which he was thrown by Nero Caesar, not Domitian. But you could call Nero Domitianou. Okay, just so you know. And this was in 2 sources that he found: Moses Stewart, Commentary on the Apocalypse, 1845, Volume 1, page 267, as well as in Milton S. Terry, Biblical Hermeneutics, 1890, pages 136, 137. Thus, from the oldest and most important versions in our possession comes unequivocal testimony placing Revelation in the time of Nero. Okay, so I think that ends any of the debate. Okay, so I hope that helps everybody understand the history and relationship between the Book of Revelation and the Book of John. Book of Revelation definitely comes way further, earlier in time, and the Book of John comes 30 plus years later. And we have verification of all those facts by historical records. And the only evidence against that is this mistake by Irenaeus, by people reading Irenaeus and not realizing Domitianou meant Domitian Nero, which is a name that Nero had. And this is, you have to know Latin history to understand, or Roman history to know that fact. And therefore, the Greek had a distinguishing way of marking one from the other. One was Domitianou, and the other was Domitianikos. Anyway, God bless everybody. I hope that helps. Ciao. Bye.